Hello everybody. Today in this video we are going to learn how you can able to add a modern API documentation to your Next.js app using Swagger UI. After end of this video you can able to create such a beautiful API documentation using Swagger UI. It is not too hard to build such a UI. We are going to build within few minutes. So guys, after end of this video you can able to apply these tips to any project because we are going to use JSON file to create such a UI. Let's go ahead and try to explore. Alright everyone, as you can see guys, here is my Next.js project, and in this project we are going to add Swagger API documentation. So let's go ahead and try to explore the project file and folder structure. So as you can see guys, here is my fresh Next.js app. Inside this app folder, I have a API file where we defined our API endpoint. Right, so if you take a look here, page.tsx file, here I have this file, nothing else. There is no functionality I have added. So I'll give the link on GitHub. You can download the project and you can start with me. Alright. Also, I'm gonna be explain here the API file and folder. So here, if you take a look inside this route.ts file, inside this file, I have a get request, pass request, so which is coming from delete, get user, update user, from leave API user, and we have defined here type as well. So if you go over leave folder, and inside this folder I have a API folder and then user.ts file, and inside this file if you take a look here, all my business logic. So as you can see guys, create, delete and update, it's not too hard. I have a full video about REST API. I'll give the link on description, or you can watch from my YouTube channel. Alright, here is our simple API endpoint. Now how we can document, how we can add Swagger documentation. So let's go ahead and try to add. In order to add Swagger what we have to do, we just need to go ahead and try to install one packages, which is, let's say I'm going to use burn add. You can use npm yarn or pnp, whatever. So this package Swagger UI React, and after install this package you can able to add. So as you can see, our package is installation is completed, and now what we have to do here, if you take a look, here is our file. Now we need to create a folder, so that's going to be doc, as you can see, and inside this doc folder I have a create a file that's going to be tsx, pages.tsx, and here inside this file I'm going to generate a functional component, and inside this div I would like to say, let's add a ace1, so or ace2, whatever, we can say ap doc, something like that, and after and I'm going to this folder. So as you can see, this is our doc folder, here is the API doc, but here we'll show the Swagger UI. In order to show, what we have to do, we just need to use Swagger, as you can see, which is coming from Swagger UI, and inside this Swagger UI we have defined here the URL, right? And inside this URL we need to define the JSON file. Basically we need to define the schema, how will be look like our API. So here is the URL, and let's say initially that's gonna be empty. So after adding URL, so no API definition provided, so we need to define API definition. And inside this URL I would like to add a file name, which will be, let's say, swagger.json, something like that. And if we don't want to add any file and folder, then we need to add inside this public folder. So where is this public folder? Here is our public folder. Inside this public folder, if we add, we don't need to add any file and folder. So if we create any folder, let's say Swagger, and if we add this swagger.json inside this folder, then we need to define here Swagger, right? So just like this way we need to define. We all know this thing. So right now we have a swagger.json file. As you can see, this file is empty, totally empty. Now how we can define our API? Since we have already API folder here, right? So it's pretty easy. So let's go ahead and try to define. So inside this JSON file, initially we take an object, and inside this object I would like to say open API. We can define here the version. Let's say that's going to be version 3. So after adding open API version 3, as you can see, it has changed a little bit. And then we need to define the API path, right? So here is our API located. So let's define the API path. So in order to define API path, so we can say here path, and inside this path we can say here API. So where is the located? Here is the API folder, and then we can say the folder name, which is users. So there it is. And then inside this user folder, if we just save it, as you can see, I'm going to save it, nothing is changed. So let's define inside this user, that's going to be get request. As you can see, here is our route, right? Define here get, and inside this get request, what I have to do, we'll define here summary, and inside this summary we can say get all users, just like this. So as you can see, guys, here is the get all users, but it's not added any style, right? So it looks not so good. So in order to add style, what we have to do inside this file, guys, so inside this doc folder and page.tsx file, we need to add Swagger UI React and Swagger UI.css, which is coming from Swagger UI automatically, since we have installed Swagger UI packages. You just need to import this exactly same thing. So if I save it, after that let's refresh. As you can see, guys, now looks pretty good. As you can see, wow, it looks good, right? The API doc, here is the default is get request, right? We got our design. So we have defined here get all users. If I'm clicking here try out, there is a no parameter, right? We just need to define all parameter. In order to define all parameter, we just need to use, here is our gate. Inside this gate we need to use response. So that's going to be response, and inside this response, let's say if it is 200, then what we will want to show, we want to show all user. This way basically you need to write inside this 200 list of all users. So we can define here description. So inside this user 200, I'm going to define here description all user. So just give it a refresh, and clicking here, as you can see, list of all user, try out. So here will show all user, and then I would like to add here content. So let's give it here content, and inside this content I would like to add application and JSON schema, right? We need to add schema to send request. So that's going to be application JSON. So just like this, as you can see in our previous video, we have used YML. So you can use JSON here. It's pretty simple, guys. You don't need to worry for any error, right? So here is the application JSON, and inside this application JSON, what we have to do, we need to define here schema. Just save it. Let's see. Now looks good. There it is. We have application JSON, right? And inside this application JSON, let's define here schema, and inside this schema we need to define here a type, right? So let's say type, and that's going to be an array. After that, I would like to define here items. So that's like this. So it really does not matter if you just give it a space just like this, and it will also be workable. But in YML file it will not work because we are just separated all our logic here, and we can define here, right? So it's very simple. So inside this item, I would like to give the reference. If I save it, as you can see, automatically save it, give it refresh. There it is. As you can see, here is the string type, schema type, and we need to define here reference. So I'm going to define here the reference. So let's insert this item, and I would like to define here reference, as you can see, at the red refs, and it will reference to component, schema, and user, and we need to create a component, schema, user. How we can create? So let's go ahead and try to create. To create, what we have to do, here is our open API and here is our path. So below this path, we need to create a part, let's say schema part, right? We can say schema part here. So what we have to do, we now just need to create component, right? Here is our component. So create here component. After that, insert this component or your is gone. Let's add a schema. We define here a schema. So let's get this schema. So there it is, schemas, and insert this schema. Let's define here user, right? So that's gonna be user. So there you go, user, and insert this user here, as you can see, user, and insert this user I would like to define all type. So type that's going to be, let's say, type, which will be an object, right? So we can say object. There you go. After that, we can add here properties, and inside these properties we can define here ID. So we just need to add nested object, and inside this ID I would like to add here type, just like this, and type that's gonna be a string. There we go. If I save and go over this modern API doc and save it, as you can see, here is our schema is defined. So here basically, and there we go. Here is our ID string, and we can use tryout. So it still is missing, but okay, it will be, since this is a get request, we don't need to add tryout. So we just need to use the execute. As you can see, guys, here we got empty, right? It is working. We can clear, pretty cool. We need to add more. So let's add for name. We have added for here ID. Here is our ID. After ID, I would like to add for name. As you can see, there you go. As you can see, here is the name. And then we can add for email. So here is our name, and insert this. Below this name, I'm going to add email, and after that I would like to add role. What will be the role? And below this email, that's going to be role, and then we can add created ad, comma separated, and created ad. And then finally we can able to add required property to record everything. There we go. If I save it, and as you can see, here is required string. So here is application JSON get all users, and there we go. Here is our schema. As you can see, role, required, everything we have added. This way basically you can able to add for get and for post, for delete. How we can add this thing? Now we can add for update. So now you have created get request. If you want to create a post request, here is the get endpoint end is here, and below this get endpoint we can define here post, right? And we can say here post request. So if I save it and give it a refresh, so it's not, as you can see, here is the post request automatically added here. But you can add here schema, similar way you can add here summary, inside this post, let's add the summary and request body. So you can add all the thing very easily, guys. It's not too hard. As you can see, here is the request body. How will look like request body? You can say required to inside this request body, just like this. Required going to be 2, and after that you can add here content type. So content, that's going to be application JSON, and here is the request body 2. And below this request body, so here we have added here content, application JSON, schema. We have reference here component schema, create to do. We just need to create. Here is the user is in here, and below this user we need to create another create user to do. So just like this. After that, there we go, we just need to define all schema here. So if I give a refresh, as you can see, here is the string initially. We can define here. Let's define it, guys. We can define here type object, and after that we can define here properties, just like this. So name and string. There we go, we have defined here properties, and if I give refresh, we got error, as you can see, because we mistake here. Here's the object property name type, maybe something is missing, obviously missing here. So here's the object is in, there we go, no error. And then we need to add properties. Here we need to add properties inside these properties. We need to define our name, email, all the things, so, and role, just like this. There we go. Maybe we just skip like name, just like this. As you can see, no error. Fair to do, as you can see, here is the name. Also we can define email name inside this property. We have defined here email, as you can see. After that we can define here role. What will be the role for user? There we go, and now it is working, as you can see, guys. Here is our post request. You can try out, as you can see. You can edit name going to be string, let's say Arif, and user, and you can send request. So basically this way you can send request and you can test your endpoint. It is not too hard to create, and as you can see, this UI is totally responsive, mobile friendly, guys. What you need, you just need to install one packages, and you just need to define your schema inside this file, JSON file. And JSON file is pretty much easy, guys. If you add in YML file or inside the API, that will be hard for you because you need to do a lot of your handling. So what we have defined here, we define here path, API path, and then we define here component and schema. So open API path component. So inside this path, we have added here the API user, and then get, and the summary, and the response, and then content. That's it. And for post request, summary, request body, required, and content, which is represent here inside this component. We have added here schema. Inside this schema, I have a user schema and create user schema. If you want to create another schema, then here we can create, let's say, update schema, right? And this way you can update a schema. And if you want to add post, for here post, and there you go, here get post. If you want to create another, then you can add here, let's say, patch request, and this way you can add here patch request. If you go over and give it a refresh, as you can see, here is the patch request is added automatically. You don't need to add anything. If you define here what is inside your project, and it will automatically work. So pretty much that's it. If you find useful, don't forget to subscribe and give a like. Thank you very much. See you soon.